You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next, the May 31st, 2022 meeting of the Michigan City Common Council Special Workshop. You can get more information for this meeting by going to www.accesslaportecounty.org.
All right, I would like to call this workshop to order. This is the workshop in reference to a resolution and an ordinance regarding sanitation services for the the town of Long Beach. I would like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If everybody could stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so I have received several correspondence from people who would like to speak. So let me say a couple of things first, because I want to acknowledge all the folks that have sent correspondence to me personally or to the council members, so that at least their names can be recorded for the record. And after that, what we will do is we will allow the city of Long Beach and well, actually, I'll let the council sponsors, if they have a few words, 3 minutes to say something. If they would like to say something, we'll allow them. Then the town of Long Beach and their attorney, if they have a few things they would like to say, or the sanitary district. From there, in order of which I received requests to be on to speak, I will call the names out for them to come up and speak. You have 3 minutes or less, and we will end at 6 o'clock. So what I encourage everyone to understand is that if you're being super repetitive, or you're reading something and we're saying the same thing over and over again, acknowledge the fact that if you are long-winded, that your peers or your neighbors may not get a chance to speak. This is just to make sure that everybody's voice is heard, but we're not going to sit here for 4 hours to do this. So I do want to make that plain, 3 minute maximum. But in saying that, let me start with acknowledging all the people who did send a correspondence and will not be here to speak, or they may be in the audience. So when I say against the project, it's not saying they're against sewer for the area. It could be that they're not for the process. It could mean that they're not for the additional expense. They have expressed so many different things to our council, why they would love to have sewer, but they would like the financial piece to be spread across the whole entire town. So I just want to acknowledge those people who did send in correspondence. It was Tim and Sue Anderson, John Burke, Michelle Stevenson. I apologize for any names that I butcher. Richard Dijik, Meg Dix, Carla Karstens, Margaret Allison, Carter Allens, Mary Breen, Thomas Stevenson, Amanda Ferrellman, Joanna Milo Belus, Annie Malone, Carl and Therese Anderson, Jody and Chuck Lazar, Chris Diamato, Tim Casey, Richard and Sharon DeLauder, Ed Thayer, Margaret Carey, Michael and Stephanie Athens, Brian Jensen, Stephanos Rizos, Sherry Brady, Greg Meyer, Michael and Kerry Nolan, Brad and Tracy Martin. And these were people that just expressed a concern about the process, the cost. I'm not necessarily against sewer. Some yes, some no, but I'm not going to go through all of those correspondences. Then for the project, we had Dr. LeMay, the Flando family, Barrett and Susie Callahan, CJ Dempsey, Thomas Dunn, Scott Up, Lene Mullins, Bob Boyce, Jason and Judy Lynn, and the family, Clint Chappell and Janice Kelly. So these were all of the correspondence that I received prior to this morning at 10 a.m. So I just wanted to make sure that I acknowledge that we have received tons of correspondences from residents of Long Beach. And with that being said, I would like to ask if any of the council sponsors have any comments before we move on to comments from the sanitary district or the city of the town of Long Beach.
All right, yes. Here's what I would like people to think about, that whether or not this project occurs was up to the town council of Long Beach. Our decision is not whether or not this project occurs. It was their decision and it was their jurisdiction, and they worked hard to get this project done. So the next part is, I think, well, what are the benefits to Michigan City? A lot. So our beach, our water sports, fishing, sailing, motorboating, etc., and our drinking water is affected by this. So we do not want to have increasing septic seepage. I know a lot of people say, my septic is just fine. Did you really have it inspected? Just because you flush the toilet doesn't mean the septic is working fine. So a couple of things, it's not our job to decide whether or not. It is the town of Long Beach's job to decide whether or not. It is our job to decide whether the city's involvement is important. And basically, it's a no-brainer, except that I feel that we are going to have some kind of financial problem if we do not go forward with the project. So I am in favor of the project.
Yeah.
The names of people who wish to speak that are supposed to be by the close of business night before last.
Friday.
What was the close of business time?
Anybody who got it to me on Friday, I accept it.
I put my name in on Friday before
I
5
got
o'clock.
it.
You didn't read it off though.
No, those were people who only sent correspondence.
I'm sorry.
I have a different list of all of you in the audience. And it's longer than the
I
correspondence.
apologize. Thank you.
No problem, no problem. Councilman Don Privilegio or Councilman Brian Devy?
Well, my comments here, and one of the reasons, probably the main reason I was a sponsor, is I'm the liaison to the sanitary district. And by hearing what the project was, I decided to go ahead and carry it forward. Now, whether I vote in favor of it or not in favor of it is yet to be decided. I'm listening to both sides of the street here, those in favor, those against it, and I'm weighing it out. I'm weighing out the financial situation and burden on the folks. I'm weighing out the environmental impact, which at the last sanitary district meeting, we had some input there on environmental impact issues there. And yeah, my mind is open and I just want to hear what the folks have to say. Whether the whole town should have a sewer system, whether they need to go back and take another survey and see how the whole town feels about this. And I'm taking all those emails. I think I've received approximately 20 some emails, and I think there were 16 against and 4 for. And at the sanitary district meeting, I believe, I don't know, give or take, I think there may be 12 people that spoke, 13 people that spoke. I think 2 people were in favor of it, and that would have left 11 people against it. So I am just here to listen, and then I will weigh my decision on what's been said to me and go from there.
Yes, Councilman Dabney.
Yeah, real quick. I want to just kind of repeat with some of the things that Councilwoman Jiga said in regards to where the decision was made with the town council out there in Long Beach. And so this comes into our purview just for the bonding authority, basically. So we aren't the ones that were the deciders of whether or not to do this project. But since we had this on our first reading with the council, obviously we go out and seek different information. And I have quite a bit of new information regarding environmental issues, septic tanks in themselves, and how all of this stuff works. And I'm going to listen to the people, make the point here, but I probably had 40 email or so come to me directly, and I responded to the first 3 or 4, and then after that, it just became repetitive, saying the same thing over and over, that I was actually seeking out information. From what I'm seeking out and what I've sought out, what I've heard, there actually could be potential financial problems for the city coming down the line if these resolutions aren't signed in regards to move forward because of the agreement that is done with our sanitation department and the town council of Long Beach, somewhere in the tune of about $380,000. So I've had to take that into consideration that Michigan City could be in some financial, how do I want to say it, would have to pay $380,000. So with the information that I received and talking to people who are experts in septic systems and everything like that, at this time, I am going to be in favor of moving forward. But once again, I saw letters that were announcing this out there with Long Beach that were dated as far back as March. So I'm assuming that everyone had a chance to make their thoughts known, or did they not? They didn't know there was town council meetings or anything like that. That would be interesting. But with the information that I've learned and some of the things that are happening here in Michigan City, and my concerns for Michigan City, as I stand up strongly talking about coal ash here at NIPSCO, this is kind of the same issue with things that could be running off into the lake down there. At this point, I'm in favor of us moving forward. So I'm going to remain a sponsor, and I am going to hear some of the issues tonight and see what happens here.
Just to note, I know I have 2 people. I'll go ahead and give you their names, Drew. I know our council attorney may be online. You might want to make him a panelist, Jewel Harris, or somebody from his firm. And also Tom Vajovich, I'm going to butcher these, and CJ Dempsey may be online. And those were the 2 that I know for sure that they're just go ahead and put them on because they're in the list early.
Councilwoman, would you mind putting Amanda Lehner? She's the health department head.
Yes, and I do have Amanda Lehner from the Department of Health if she's in. And Randy Rampola, counsel, attorney for the bonding. All right, I think we got it. I'm trying to get everybody. Yes, Tom Vajovich. I know I'm gonna butcher these names, so just apologize in advance. Yes.
Anybody that is here, if there's any procedural questions or anything you'd like to ask, we do need to make sure that you come to the microphone. Because if you ask questions back here, those that are participating remotely.
Maybe I have to go in the other room. Because it's set up differently.
Yep, and I'll repeat that. So when I call your name, just come to the mic, state your name and your address. And then, like I said, the 3 minutes. And council members, I'm gonna need your assistance with that to make sure that we're very strict about the 3 minutes. And I would say for your peers, even 1.5 minutes, so that we can get through the whole entire list. And there may be a few people online that I'll call their names if they're not here. They may be on Zoom. So with that, I would like to open it up to the town council. If there's a representative from Long Beach or the attorney, I know Christopher Willoughby did send me a notification, actually before just about anybody else. If there's some comments you would like to make in advance, I will give you that time now.
Hi, I'm Robert Lemay, President of the Town Council of Long Beach. On Wednesday, May the 25th, the Michigan City Sanitary District held a public hearing at which about 15 of our Lake Shore Drive homeowners who did not want to pay for the project and their legal representative from South Bank Legal spoke against the project. I'd like to refute many of the claims made by that very vocal minority. We state that the town of Long Beach is not looking for grants to help defray the cost of this project. In fact, we're actively pursuing a STAG grant through Representative Mervan's office, and I have reason to believe that this will be successful. It was stated we can build it later. No one really expects the cost of this project to go down in the future. In fact, thanks to House Bill 1245, no municipality in the future will be able to mandate capital charges to households being served by new sewer systems. In other words, any homeowner will be able to opt out of paying their fair share for these projects. Our project's been grandfathered from this provision as long as we proceed now. If we don't proceed now, this project won't happen. It should be noted that South Bank Legal, hired by some of the remonstrators at that hearing, was instrumental in crafting this misguided piece of legislation in an attempt to scuttle our project. The question was asked at the hearing, why are we not sewering the whole town? Lakeshore Drive was in fact planned to be just phase one of our plan. However, until House Bill 1245 is repealed, that will be a fiscal impossibility for the same reasons. It's interesting that the very people who made sewering the whole town an impossibility with House Bill 1245 are now asking, why aren't we sewering the whole town? The question was asked, why did we only get one bid? In fact, 9 bid packets were sent out, and this was the only one returned. We did ask the contractor we were most surprised to have not heard from, and he did share with us that had he submitted a proposal, his bid would have been substantially higher than the one we did receive. The contractor who did submit the bid is quite reputable and has done exemplary work for the town in the past. It was stated that E. coli counts taken from the lake are not out of line with those in the rest of Lake Michigan shoreline. These samples are taken in the summertime when the lake is calm. One has to wonder what they would look like in the spring and fall when lake levels rise again, the north wind is howling, and seawalls protecting lakeside septic systems are breached again. We all remember the picture on the front page of the News Dispatch 2 or 3 years ago showing one of our breached septic systems hanging out over the lake. It was stated at the hearing that the moratorium on new septics will disappear on 7/1/22. House Bill 1245 takes away the ability of our health department to protect our lake from septics placed too close to the lake beginning on 7/1/23, not 22. Our homeowners will also have to find room to place these new septic systems where the location fits the setbacks for septics. These setbacks have not changed and are not likely to. It will be impossible for many of our small lakefront lots to put in new septics if theirs failed. It was stated that such properties could put the new system under the driveway. Not even House Bill 1245, as misguided as it was, allows for that. It was stated that the new sewer system would only increase property values on the lake side of Lakeshore Drive and not on the hillside. I've spoken with several realtors. They can't imagine where this idea came from. This is just not true. We now have 14 of our Lakeshore Drive properties on pump and haul because their septic systems have failed and the LaPorte County Health Department doesn't feel it's safe to replace them. This number will only go up over time. Finally, our Lakeshore Drive is now within your Michigan City Sanitary District. At some point, it'll be your responsibility to mandate this sewer. I hope it's not when that north wind is howling, lake levels have risen again, and septics are again falling into the lake. Remember, the literal flow along our lakeshore proceeds from Long Beach to Washington Park and Michigan and your beach. The Michigan City Sanitary and Long Beach both get our water that we drink from the lake. I ask you to authorize your Michigan City Sanitary District to complete this project, which we've been working on with them for over 2 years. It's a win-win for both of our communities. This is not the time to do what is politically expedient. It's time to do the right thing for both of our communities. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is John Wall. I'm also on the Long Beach Town Council and have been working with for the last 2 years since I've been in office with the engineering firm and the Michigan City Sanitary District on this project. I just want to point out, I had all kinds of notes. I just want to point out a few things. You guys have kind of succinctly summarized some of the issues that you have to face in your vote. I just want to call to mind that this is a multi-year, multi-administration effort. It's been going on. The sanitary sewers were preferable. Even most of the people you're here tonight demonstrating, or I shouldn't say most, but quite a few of those people will agree that sewers are necessary in the long run. Straight state regulations would lead you that way. They don't like to see septic systems in proximity to drinking water. I'd call your attention to a couple of things you may or may not have seen. One was in 2017, there was some groaning when you brought up how long this has been going on. In 2017, the Indiana Health Department issued a letter. This is the Indiana State Health Department that said this area would best be served by sanitary sewers. Makes it very difficult to install a system and maintain proper separation distance to the water's edge. It could lead to a health hazard, not only in the recreational water, but also the drinking water in the area. Specifically, they say the Indiana State Health Department supports any efforts to bring sanitary sewers, at least to the north side. I call your attention to the fact that the LaPorte County Health Department, most of you I think are aware of this, has a moratorium on septic system installations and repairs on the lakeside as we speak. It's been, they sent us another letter in February of this year stating that there are no plans to change the fact that that moratorium is still in place. You know, in 2017, we started having all kinds of system failures, septic system failures along the lake. Dr. LeMay pointed out to the fact that some of them actually fell into the lake. There are other issues in the future. Some properties don't have the room for a drainage system, which would be another way to improve or make more modern some of the septic systems. Some of the lots just don't allow for that. So there's other issues that have come to pass if the sanitary sewer is not put in place. Again, we had a comprehensive plan in 2016 that most people in the town said that they were in favor of sanitary sewers. There have been multiple forums, letters, council meetings that started in 2018. So this informational exchange between the population and the town board and the sanitary district has been going on for well over 4 or 5 years. Actually, back in 2004, the town council authorized an engineering study to start the process of reviewing and finding out how to do a sanitary system. They engaged a Haas engineering firm locally that you're aware of, Haas and Associates, to start that process. But we also wound up with a bunch of water improvements that had to go on, so that kind of took precedence. So it's been talked about since 2004. We've been negotiating with the Michigan Sanitary District for all those years. We did project cost estimates and capital cost projections based on early assumptions, which have been, you know, obviously we've had some cost differentials, which I know that it's one of the things that bothers everybody, including myself. The only other thing, you know, we've tried very hard to reduce the cost of this as best we can. We told the sanitary district and the engineer early on that we would take on some of the communication between the homeowners and the engineering and construction team to try to reduce costs, because as you may know, that's can be a very expensive part of a project. So we offered to do that interface to reduce the cost. We also have an ongoing grant application at the federal level. We're hoping to be able to get that in place. The first time that any homeowners would have to pay anything at all would be 2024, more than likely August of 2024. We hope that those grant applications will be fruitful for us and we can reduce the cost of the project. In addition, we offered to take the asphalt surface out of the project, which would be milling and surfacing to the tune of about $400,000, which is included in the numbers that you've seen. And we'd take that out and try to do it with a grant. So those are some of the things that I wanted to highlight this evening. Again, we'd appreciate your positive vote to move the financing forward on this project. Thank you.
Anyone else from the town of Long Beach? I want to hold off on questions because I want the sanitary district to speak, and then the council, we need to be brief so that we can allow for comments from the public. But with the sanitary district, if you have any comments, I definitely want you to speak to a couple of things. Number one, our jurisdiction. of Lakeshore Drive, because it was just said that it would be under our jurisdiction, and costs that the city would incur, because we're the fiscal agent of the city. And a vote no or for, how does that impact us as far as costs? Thank you. And if Randy Rampola needs to address us too, he can. You can defer to him. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the council. My name is Jim Myers. You know, I'm the general counsel for the Michigan City Sanitary District. Going, I guess, a little bit in reverse order in reference to the financial exposure that a couple of council members have mentioned. The 2 years ago in the Michigan City Sanitary District entered into, after probably 2 years of negotiations and discussions, a written agreement, which I forwarded to all of you before the last meeting, which, among other things, provides that the Michigan City Sanitary District would work in good faith with the town of Long Beach to secure SRF funding for the project. Part of the main requirement for that, as you know, the project is going to be solely, the revenue to pay the bonds is solely from Long Beach. There's nothing coming from Michigan City or any of its residents or businesses. So the concept was and is that the good faith on our part, the sanitary district's part, was to make secure the services of an appropriate engineer who knows what they're doing, and we did that with Haas and Associates. B, submit a proper application to the Indiana Finance Authority, the State Revolving Fund branch, for a loan. And the SRF, as you know, financing is attractive because it's typically a percent or more lower interest rate, and on $10 million, that adds up a lot. All of that was done in order to be able to fund the payments on the bond. The users, future users, and the properties in on Lakeshore Drive, north and south, would have to pay money, and those are called capital charges. So it's basically, there's 302 properties along Lakeshore Drive, heading up north and south, and I'm using approximate numbers. I didn't go out and count them, but that's what I have heard. And if you, which the Fender and Associates have done, you take the worst case scenario, which was a $13 million bond, and multiply that or divide that by the 302 properties on a 2/3 of it on a 35-year basis, and a third of it roughly on a 20-year basis, you end up with the per month charge that is contained in the Sender report, which I also forwarded you guys a copy of some time ago. It's $248, I think, is the capital charge. That charge, number one, as mentioned by the gentleman from Long Beach, under the new House Enroll Act 1245, there's a provision, in my opinion, is still ambiguous a little bit, but that you're supposed to treat everybody the same who's within the service area for a sewer. The gentleman mentioned that some time ago, at the request of the town of Long Beach, the Michigan City Sanitary District incorporated basically the north and south side of Lakeshore Drive into the sanitary district. It's not part of the city. It's not an annexation. It's just there's a provision under the statute for a sanitary district to incorporate areas outside the city boundaries. It has certain administrative advantages, including you don't have to get an easement for every place you put a sewer, or a permission to enter in order to do something as far as maintaining the sewer. This project is approximate cost of with administrative, meaning bond counsel, financial consultant, engineers, and construction costs. You're looking at probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $10 million. Now, the bond says 13 are the resolutions in order to plan for the worst case scenario. We're talking about installing a sewer down Lakeshore Drive, which you folks are much more familiar with this than I am, but there are locations where, for instance, there's retaining walls built within the right of way of Lakeshore Drive. You know, we don't know how that happened, but there's things that might cause an uptick in cost. If the contractor, although they've all, if it's viewable, you're not going to get a change order to address it. But if it's underground, that's theoretically possible. So that's why whenever you do these projects and do the loans and applications for loans, you do it, you know, as making sure you don't have to, that you don't run out of money. You only get from the state the money that you actually can show an invoice for. You don't just, if we get approval for 13 million, doesn't mean they write you a check for 13 million. They don't write checks to anything other than where you have actual invoices to demonstrate that you've incurred the cost. So the project ends up costing 10 million. The payment by SRF would be 10 million. That's what the bonds would be, you know, et cetera. The question, I don't know if I covered it or not, I'm 72 years old, I can't remember anymore.
Just make sure if this isn't moved forward, what impact does that have to Michigan City in finance?
The impact to Michigan City Sanitary District and possibly the city, to the extent that the sanitary district speaks on behalf of the city for sewer matters, is that the agreement says that the town of Long Beach is eventually responsible for all costs. That would include engineering fees, for instance. What has gone on, or what is part of that as well, was that, of course, those would all be reimbursed out of the SRF loan and paid if they haven't been paid yet, just like the contractor. So we don't have the SRF loan yet. So, of course, the Haas and Associates engineers couldn't carry, 3 years worth of work for nothing. So there was a provision or agreement reached that they would be paid a portion of their bill by the Michigan City Sanitary District until such, and then once the SRF bond was sold and closed on, the Michigan City Sanitary District would get its money back. If the project got stopped for some reason other than, we have to exercise good faith. So the sanitary district, in my opinion, the city as well, needs to exercise good faith in doing what we committed to do, which was to do what was necessary to secure an SRF loan for this project at the most reasonable rate possible. It's still open to question. There may be some forgivable part of this, but the only reason SRF is involved in this is because of the fact that they, meaning the state of Indiana, through IDEM and IDNR and others, find that it's the danger and risk of failing septics along Lakeshore Drive is a threat to Michigan City. In order to get an SRF loan, you either have to be poor, have a low median household income, or you have to have, your project has to have a substantial beneficial effect on the environment. I'm sure all of you know that the people along Lakeshore Drive don't meet the low median household income requirement. So and when I say that, I don't mean each individually is done by census tract. But anyway, this project qualified, and the very approval by IDEM, which I don't know if you guys have or not, specifically states that this is being authorized for SRF funding due to the fact that it provides a substantial benefit to the environment, which of course, as somebody pointed out, the literal drift from Long Beach is immediately Michigan City, Sheridan Beach, all the way to Washington Park. So cleaner water at Long Beach is cleaner water from Michigan City.
So what I'll do, it's not gonna be 6 o'clock, it'll be 6:30 at least. Just letting you all know, I'm not gonna cut you off. Everybody who made the deadline will be able to speak. So
There was
go
one
ahead.
question about why don't we charge the whole town for this project on Lakeshore Drive? And I think I mentioned this at our last meeting, but there's a difference between a fee and a tax. For a fee, you have to have a demonstrated benefit to the person you're charging a fee from. And in this case, that's anybody on either the north or south side of Lakeshore Drive, because they would have the ability to attach to the sewer. People outside of that area would not. And so you can't charge them a fee when they don't get a benefit. Not myself, and not the sanitary district, the town, as was mentioned, did an evaluation of doing the whole town versus just this phase. And they, the elected representatives of the town, decided to go this route. So I don't know why we wouldn't go on with that, but we did, the sanitary district did, of course, which is why we only incorporated part of the town that's on Lakeshore Drive, both sides. There are various benefits in addition to environmental. Michigan City Sanitary District is going to be getting, a $10 million sewer for free. There's going to be some improvements free to the sanitary district and the
Right.
citizens of Michigan City who you represent, and also some improvements to some of the pump stations. One of the pump stations that the sewage has to go through because it has to be enlarged because there's more sewage going through it due to this new sewer system. So
Thank you. I don't want to do questions yet.
Oh.
What I want to do is get to the list of people who want to speak, and then at the end, I'll open up for questions from the council,
okay.
and see if there's anything else.
All of you have my contact information, so if any of you have any questions,
Yes,
don't hesitate to ask.
appreciate that.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so first, let me, the health department I know is online. I didn't know if she had anything she would like to say or not, but I can just defer if we have questions for her at the end. Amanda, did you have anything?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here. I don't have anything right at this time. I'll take questions, whatever anybody has any.
All right, thank you. All right, so I will start in order of which I've received these in email, just to make sure that I keep this as official as I can, and we have a long list. So again, be cognizant of everybody's ability to speak. I have a Michelle Stevenson. Is there a Michelle Stevenson? Tom, I figured it was both of you. Yes. Name and address. Yes.
Hi, good evening. Tom Stevenson, 2515 Lakeshore Drive. Let's have a couple, I don't want to get, too wordy here, but, basically the, this project, in my opinion, started in 2018. We're looking at doing some we have some issues with the septics along the north side of Lakeshore Drive. We've never, the LaPorte County should never have permitted those on the north side of Lakeshore Drive because the beach was big. They permitted them. The town of Long Beach agreed with that. I know it's more of a LaPorte County issue for that. But then water levels came up. We have issues there. And so we in 2018, I'm on the south side of Lakeshore Drive. We received a survey from the town basically saying, are we interested in sewers? We would not have to tap into that point, and the estimated cost is about $3 million. At that point, less than 50% of the people on the south side of Lakeshore Drive were in favor of sewers. So then we fast forward to 2020, and then the Michigan City Sanitary District, this is when they had a conversation with the town of Long Beach and put together a package to look at getting an SRF loan. At that point, we had only 10 out of 73 letters into the sanitary district were in favor of the sewers. So there's a track of people not being in favor of this project. And it seems to me that I don't understand why the town of Long Beach nor the Michigan City Sanitary District continue to move forward with this if they understand that it's not in the best interest of, or I should say, or the people of Long Beach were not in favor of this. And then I am an environmental consultant. Based on data from sampling along Long Beach, particularly Stop 20, we had only one instance of E. coli above a safety level in 2021, and then 2020 and 2022, 2019 and 2020, there was no incidence above at all. So, and they sample 3 times a week during the summer months. And then, just so you know, I mean, the basic Lake Michigan flows, it goes from west to east. So it's not moving toward the intakes of Michigan City. It's going to the east. That's your normal flow. I mean, there is incidents where it potentially would go that way, but the normal flow is from west to east. And so I'm just, at this point, I am just asking that the City Council reject the proposed resolution for extending sewers into Long Beach. The Lake Michigan is not getting contaminated as far as from the data shows. It is not impacting, okay, I'm sorry. It is not impacting the water intakes, and pretty much the majority of Long Beach is not in favor, at least on Lakeshore Drive is not in favor of this. Thank you very much.
Yes. Is that my name is called?
Yes, can you state your name and your address? Oh, state your name and your address for us, and then you can speak.
Zafar Rizvi, 1636 Lakeshore Drive, Long Beach, Indiana.
Yes, you can speak now.
Okay. Since Dr. LeMay and Mr. John Wall already gave us a background of the project, so I will start. I will say only briefly. I hope and pray you are also concerned about the environment and clean water we all drink. I humbly request please review the facts, which are also clearly stated by some of our neighbors. The letter which is they send it to all or most of the Lakeshore Drive people. They call it Hoosier for Action. In their letter to council members, they admit there may be an environmental risk of contaminated water reaching Lake Michigan as septic system age. In other words, they think system is needed and could be environmental problem, but do not want to pay. Unfortunately, it seems like it is about money, not about the environmental concerns. I request once again, before you make any decision, please keep in mind potential of extreme weather, increase in failure of septic tanks, pollution of lake will continue, and cost to build sewerage system will double in few years. You have clear choice. Do nothing and continue to pollute our drinking water or do something. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. Next, we have Tom, what did we say? Vujovich?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It's Tom Voyevich.
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 Okay.
My
thank
wife
you.
and I live at 1806 Lakeshore Drive. We built our home there on a vacant lot. We're on the lakeside 11 years ago. And we were dumbfounded to find out that there was not city sewer available. The thought that you could build on the lakefront without a sewer struck me as being exceptionally odd, if not irresponsible. So I applaud the town board for taking the action to install sewers. I have served on a local planning commission and board of zoning appeals, have dealt with septic systems within the 2-mile jurisdiction of the town that we live in. And the one thing that was always impressed upon me was the one thing you can guarantee about a septic system is that it will fail. You just don't know when. Our system failed as a result of the storms that took out our seawall and exposed our septic field. We are now on Pump and Haul. Obviously, there is a vested interest for us to have the sewer. But from a cost standpoint, it's pretty much a wash between the capital cost and what we're paying for Pump and Haul. And we see this more as an act of responsibility that we owe to the community, to the environment, and to future generations to support this project. It's been indicated that a lot of people were in favor of the sewer system when it was proposed in 2017 or 2018. The only thing that seems to have changed since then is the cost. And while everyone would wish the cost would be lower, that's not the case. And it's unlikely that it will be lower in the future. And I think there is too much at stake to not do this now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Pat Clifford.
Pat Clifford, 2216 Lakeshore Drive. Thank you to the City Council for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here to speak in favor of the Long Beach Sewer Project. I commend the Long Beach Town Council for having the vision and foresight to improve the town's infrastructure and pursue and recommend the sewer project for the town. I ask the Michigan City Council to approve the sewer project as well as a necessary step in the development of the infrastructure for Long Beach. They've been building homes in Long Beach for about 100 years. The average lifespan of a septic system is approximately 30 to 50 years. Septic systems do not last forever. Through no fault of any homeowner, septic systems will fail, and septic fields will outlive their useful life, after which the effluent from the septic system runs off into the property, and yes, possibly into Lake Michigan. The homeowner then has to revert to pump and haul of the septic tank. So statistically speaking, we are on borrowed time as the failure of septic systems is looming beneath us. Even if a homeowner were able to replace their septic system, one of the requirements is that the property have enough undisturbed soil on which to locate a new septic field. For all but the largest lots, this is not possible. The homeowner would again be subject to pump and haul. When compared to the monthly cost of the sewer system, the monthly cost of pump and haul, for our experience, is more expensive. The bonds for the sewer system project will be paid off over time. The cost of pump and haul will be forever. The time for sewers in Long Beach is now. Let's leave the town better than when we found it. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Next, and I said, it says Zoom in my notes. CJ Dempsey. CJ Dempsey.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
All right. Yes, just state your name and address before you speak.
It is CJ Dempsey, 1534 Lakeshore Drive. I am speaking to you as I am in favor of the sewer system. I purchased my home 5 years ago on Lakeshore Drive. I was previously in Sheridan Beach where I had the benefit of your sewers. When I purchased my home, the sellers had to replace the septic tank because it failed during the inspection prior to me purchasing the home. That wouldn't be something that could be taken care of today. It would have significantly decreased the value of the property. And now I own the property. And I definitely have a major investment in that property that I do not want to see any decrease in value due to my inability to repair or replace a septic system. It's not that I look forward to paying a significant amount of money to have a new sewer system put in place, but when I balance the two, it seems to be a no-brainer from an economic standpoint to pay for a new sewer versus having a significant issue with a major investment, which could cause a much greater decrease in value. I, like everybody, also enjoy the lake. I swim in it often and certainly would like it to be as clean as possible. Earlier, people have said that it is safe. I don't think it's unsafe today, but if we can make it better, I have no idea why we wouldn't want to do that. So with that, I'm in favor of the sewer project. Hopefully you will see the issue the way I do and that others do, that currently we have 10% of the people on the lakefront that are pump and haul. That's going to do nothing but increase. And I hope that I don't incur that myself. And I think that all the people that are thinking that they're against this, if they were put in that position, would shift their position quite rapidly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Barrett Callahan. Barrett Callahan. Is there Barrett Callahan on Zoom? No? All right, we'll come back. All right, Bradley Martin.
Good evening, Brad Martin, 2039 Lakeshore Drive. I appreciate all the hard work the town council has done and the efforts in engineering. I moved here August of 2020, and I am in favor of sewers. I'm in favor of sewers on Lakeshore Drive and Long Beach. My only concern, and I'm coming into this kind of new, is how it was decided that the fee would be assessed on the 302 homeowners. When I relocated from the Chicago area, one of my calculated decisions was that my real estate taxes were going to be significantly less. So whether this is a fee or part of taxes, that benefit is no longer here, or will no longer be here, but very happy to be living in Long Beach. I also am most concerned with the cost per month, the fee, and I'm just really not clear on how we put a cap on this. I mean, when I first became aware of it, it was going to be, I think, $140 a month. That's gone up to $285. Council for the sanitary district said that the 13 million is a big cushion, and I think there's a 10% reserve. But when you go from 7 million to 12 or 13 million in a year, how do we know that? And I do believe that the benefit of sewer does increase property values, but the unknown doesn't. So if I'm trying to sell my house, and they're aware of this issue, how do they know what the cap is? How do they know that there won't be change orders, that are going to be added fees? And then finally, what happens when the rest of Long Beach is sewered? Is that a fee or is that a tax? And are the people that have already paid for what we're calling just 300 homeowners benefit, which I disagree with? Everybody benefits by clean lake and being in the roads, but who pays for it then? Is it a tax? Is it a fee? Are the 300 homeowners exempt? I'm willing to pay for the entire village. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll make sure, I'm hoping that the council and the sanitary district is making notes of some of the comments, because that's a great question. Next, we have Jim Smith. Or James Smith. He's on Zoom.
Yes, hello.
Yes, just state your
Yes.
name and address.
Yes, James Smith, 2228 Lakeshore Drive. I too support the Long Beach Sewer Project. My wife and my family have been in Long Beach for probably 60 years. And we have seen firsthand the issues with septic systems. So we support the Long Beach Sewer Project and all the other comments that have been made by folks along Lakeshore Drive. We appreciate the town council for what they've tried to do. We would recommend that the whole town is sewered. It does make sense. And we also know firsthand of the folks that are going to do the work of the sewer project. A very reputable firm, professional, and will do the job right. So thank you for your time. Again, we support the project.
Thank you. Next, we have Claudia Marciniak. Claudia Marciniak. Anyone online? All right, we'll keep it moving. Matt Deputy, I know he represents several people.
Thank you, Council. Keep my comments brief. You have a written document that I submitted to you guys. It thoroughly explains our position. Just a couple of points that I'd like to make.
Name it.
Matt Deputy, South Bank Legal. I represent multiple different property owners along Lakeshore Drive. So there's been talk about the contract between the Michigan City Sanitary District and the town of Long Beach that they entered into. And there's a $400,000 or so expenses that the Michigan City Sanitary District has already incurred along with Haas in developing the project. That contract explicitly says that the town of Long Beach is on the hook for that, whether the project goes forward or not for any reason whatsoever. So I just want to be clear. That contract allows you guys to say no, and they still have to pay. HB 1245, just wanted to kind of give you a brief synopsis of that. The purpose was to normalize the Indiana code across the board. So if you look, Michigan City Sanitary District had a provision that no one else in the Indiana code had, which allowed them to force connections without giving people a 20-year, up to 20-year exemption if they can prove that their septic system is not failing and is not creating environmental harm. So all they did was bring those provisions that are already in the Indiana code, and they brought them over to the Michigan City Sanitary District to make everything fair. The reason why those provisions are in there is because it's a taking to take someone's septic system that's perfectly functioning and operational and tell them, hey, you're not polluting, you're not doing anything wrong, but we brought a sewer within 300 feet of your house, you need to hook up. It's different when you have somebody polluting and creating environmental harm. Once that happens, once they give the notice to connect, all of these people are going to have potential regulatory takings against the city and the sanitary district. So additionally, HB 1245 allows repair and replacement of septic systems if certified engineers are able to prove that there is a replacement available or repair available for your septic system. It's not a guarantee that it's over, but on July 1, if folks can go and get a certified engineer to say, hey, here's the fix that solves the problem, they don't need to be on cap or on pump and haul anymore. They don't need to go and stop using their septic systems. They can fix them. And that is good for the environment. Having a leaching septic system that's not being inspected because you don't want to know that you have to go on pump and haul, that's a problem. And that's what we're going to deal with for the next 2 years until the sewer system is in place. That's what they would like, at least. I'd like to remind the council that you've incorporated them into the district. You guys owe them duties now. They are now your constituents. The town of Long Beach has given it up. They don't have the right to say no. Michigan City Sanitary District has the duty to determine whether or not this is in the best interest to go forward. And they need to say no. The right solution here is a whole town solution. It requires stepping back, using the engineering dollars that have already been expended, roll those into the next plan, figure out how to do the whole town, and do it so it's fair across the board. That's all we've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Carter Allens or Allens.
Yes, I'm on Zoom. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Carter Ellens, 2721 Lakeshore Drive. Thank you very much for having this workshop. I encourage you, the members of the Michigan City Council, to be very careful before you attach your good reputations to this potential project. Please be careful, because sadly, on this project, residents like me no longer trust our representatives. And the reason for that is each time the town has communicated rules, the rules have changed, and they've changed in ways that are increasingly heavy-handed. And we've lost trust because there's never an explanation for why the changes were made. I'll just give a couple of examples. For the South Side residents, of which I am, originally there was no cost and there was no hookup requirement. At the September 2020 public hearing, there was cost. So we now had a cost obligation, but there was still no hookup requirement. 1 year later, in November 2021, there was cost, and now there was a hookup requirement, but not for 15 years. And now, 6 months later, without explanation, we're required to hook up immediately. So there just was never any justification or explanation for why the rules changed. Why did we go from no hookup to 15 years? And why from granting us 15 years do we have to hook up immediately? I just ask you, how would your constituents feel if you made changes like that and you didn't explain why? Would they trust you? Anyways, after this workshop, if you still want to consider funding this project, please give the residents a chance to formally comment. We have not been heard. There was a public hearing, but that's now some time ago. And I would really encourage you to schedule a public hearing, schedule it for 60 days out, give the homeowners a chance to learn what's going on here. The latest rules were just published on May the 16th, and some homeowners aren't even aware that the rules changed again. I guess just in conclusion, given how materially the rules have changed since the public hearing, and given how much trust has been lost, not requiring a public hearing, it just feels like it's going to add to that mistrust. And unfortunately or unfairly, now it's going to make you all a party to that mistrust. Thank you. Thank you for your time, and thank you for listening and for considering.
Thank you. Thank you. Lene Mullins.
I'm her husband. She's at a funeral.
All right. Thank you. Come on up.
My name is Jim Owens. We have property at 2014 Lakeshore and 2919 Lakeshore. So I am Lena Mullins and I'm the owner of 2914 and 2919 Lakeshore Drive. So both a lakefront homeowner as well as a hillside homeowner. For those of you who don't know me, I am a realtor and I have sold a lot of homes in the Long Beach area and on Lakeshore Drive in particular. And it is within my capacity that I wish to speak. It is often those who have speak the loudest that get heard, and it's a shame that they do not always represent the majority. I know there are many people out there who are too shy of fair confrontation and conflict, and therefore stay silent. That's why I chose to speak today. I want to say a few words regarding my knowledge of dealing with sellers and buyers on a daily basis to you all. I see firsthand how devastating it is for a seller when their septic has failed inspection, often when they had no idea, and it then jeopardizes their sale and having them to take much less money than that they could have gotten for the home had they had a functioning septic, or having to give a huge credit toward a new septic installed. This, unfortunately, is the best case scenario when a septic cannot pass inspection. Not many years ago, the LaPorte Health Department passed an ordinance requiring the septic inspection and requiring that a septic pass inspection before a seller can sell their home. And the rules for passing a septic inspection for everyone in the whole county have made it much tougher for any septic to pass. And therefore, you as a house buyer many years ago may have thought your home and thought you had a great septic. And now it turns out that when you go to sell it, under these new rules, your septic will not pass. In the best case scenario, a repair can be done. But in many, many instances, property owners find themselves needing a new septic, and the new rules make the repair or replacement for a failed septic much more difficult than in the past. So this now gets a new set of issues. For those with large lots, that may not be a problem. But for those who do not, who have property sitting on a sloping piece of land where septic simply will not fit, the neighboring houses or the neighbors' houses are so close together, machinery cannot get into the backyard to get the job done. Or the house is too close to the road and it can't fit in the front yard. This is devastating news and can kill a deal altogether. In this instance, the only solution is to get a pump and haul permit, which makes the house much more difficult to sell. I heard that some of the opponents of this sewer project had mentioned getting a sewer would make the property value go down. But in my professional opinion, this is simply not true. If we all had sewers, then where you fail septics would be of no concern. I certainly understand that there is a monthly cost involved, and for some that might be very hard to absorb. But I also know that many of you opposed might in the future, your friends or neighbors without a sewer in place could find themselves in a bad situation when they discovered the system has failed. The idea of the problem with septics and the reason for this project is based on a small number of lakeside failed septics is just not true. These are just the ones that everyone has known about. There are far more failing septics on both sides of Lakeshore Drive that just don't show up until the owner tries to sell. We are very blessed to live in this wonderful community. I think it's even getting better is a good thing, not only for our friends and neighbors, but for our home values. To me, a monthly fee toward the sewers being in place is a small price to pay for the greater good of and a cleaner Lake Michigan. I thank you all for your time, and especially the Michigan City Council for listening, and I hope you do what is the right thing. And here are the silent people out there whose houses are currently in jeopardy, and for all the people who don't know right now that they may have a failed system. Thank you, Lena Mullins.
Next, we have Scott up. Come on up, Scott up. Yes. Yep, I'll come back. Okay. All right. Thank you. Just state your name and address.
Good afternoon. Scott Up, and I live at 2116 Lakeshore Drive in Long Beach, Indiana. Before I begin, I don't want to assume that I know everything about the project.
And therefore, I don't want to assume that you know everything about me and my personal situation. So I want to be very respectful of your time. And thank you. I also want to thank um, John Wall and Dr. Lemay from the Long Beach Council for bringing this information forward and working with one of the 14 homeowners. I happen to be one of the 14 homeowners on Lakeshore Drive whose septic tank fell in the lake. We moved into Long Beach about 4 years ago out of Chicago to give my wife and my children a better chance, a better home, a better community for which to live. When my property failed and the septic went into the tank, that out-of-pocket expense just to fix the seawall, and it pains me to say this, was well over $740,000 out of my own pocket. With a moratorium in place on the current septics, this is not about rich people on the lake. This is about the long-term improvements and the infrastructure of Lakeshore Drive and the community in Long Beach. I ask that you continue to work with us and find solutions that meet all of the requirements for all of the parties, residents, both commercial and residential in Long Beach. And my personal, there's been a miscommunication in the outreach of the community at large who don't pay the septic. I can tell you on average, I pay $235 a week. That's well over $12,000 a year for pump and haul. On a good week, it's $185. That's about $7,800 a year. So I encourage you to continue to look for solutions. I encourage you to pass this in favor for the future infrastructure of the town and the community at large. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next we have, I'll give him, I'm gonna do a few more before I bring him up. Next we have Jim, is it Vecchio? Or Vecchio? Vaccio? Is there, Vecchio is the last name? It is Vecchio, I was right.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
yes, just state your name and address before you speak.
Hi, my name is Jim Vecchio and I live at 2948 Lakeshore Drive. And for the sake of not being repetitious, I agree with everybody that has said anything that's totally positive in favor of the sewer project. I am in favor. My wife and I are in favor of the sewer project. And I just don't understand what people are thinking that, we have an obligation to ourselves, to our children's and our children's children, that, at some point in time, there's going to be seepage into the lake and things are going to fail. And I think if we don't do this now, we're going to have a problem somewhere down the line. So I agree with everything that everybody has said. I appreciate all the efforts that everybody has made to put all this together. And I say, let's move forward and do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Tony Lasuzo. We also received the correspondence. Some of you may have, I did at least. But he did ask to be on the agenda to speak, and that's Tony, and it's Lissuzzo. Yep.
Hello.
Go ahead. Yes.
This is Tony Lasuzo. I apologize for being late. I'll be very brief. I think you've probably read my memo. I'm against the sewers. I'm actually for sewers. I'm against this current iteration of the sewers. I think the way the town has gone about it, as some other people have said, has not been, I don't know, as open door policy as we all would like to have. And I think sewers are a good thing. I'm an environmentalist as well. I've had a home in Long Beach for 20 years and I'm a permanent resident as of 3 years ago. I live on Lakeshore Drive. I'm actually on the lakeside, so I know there are people on the lakeside that are against it. But I am for a sewer, but against this current form. One thing I did see that I think is very interesting, that may be a good model for us to consider, is the STEP program, which is the counties around Indianapolis, which have provided a great service to the communities for upgrading people that don't have a current sewer system, and the cost is much lower. I think we need to reevaluate the opportunities that are there for funding. And I think trying to push this through at the last minute because the law is changing, and if we don't get it in by June 30th, the funding rate and everything else is going to blow up, is really not a good reason to just continue. I would like a much more thoughtful exploration of this. And I was at the sanitary district meeting, and I do appreciate their comments and thoughtful considerations during that meeting. That's what we're looking for in Long Beach. I'll leave other comments to other people. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan Stechich? I know I'm butchering this. Stecich. Stechich? Dan? I'm just trying to see if they're on Zoom because they're not here. No? Okay. All right. Abigail Neary.
Actually, I bet this name was. Then we'll look.
Okay.
Oh, here we go.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I had trouble. I'm not particularly adept at putting this thing on. My name is Dan Stesich. I live at 1615 Lakeshore Drive. And, you know, like everybody in the town, we all should be for sewers. But as the previous speaker said, not in this iteration. When this thing started in 2018, a survey was sent, and that survey barely showed full support, but it was also based on a much lower number. The original number was $40 and it was $140, and that seemed to be a reasonable assessment. And a couple points regarding this, the current cost has gone up to $13 million, which approximates to, I think, $249 a person. But there's no cap on the cost, and nobody can give us good assurances that it won't exceed the $13 million cost. And I think it's important to note that the one bidder that didn't bid, because he thought it would be way more expensive than that, that should be considered, because I have a feeling most of these projects, when you get into them, they tend to exceed their costs and by a good amount. We need assurances that we're going to keep it within reason. Another thing that was brought up, in terms of the sewer, they said once Lakeshore Drive is hooked up, nobody would ever be able to hook up into that line again. And that seems counterproductive, because there's a whole lot of property in Long Beach that is above Lakeshore Drive level. So you can use the natural flow of gravity to bring more systems down and hopefully bring the cost down. I don't know if the whole town was ever considered in a project, but it certainly seems like we should be able to compare it, because if it brought the cost down as a per person basis, that would make a lot of sense. And finally, as somebody pointed out, this doesn't just benefit Lakeshore Drive. This benefits all of Long Beach. I want that lake to be clean. I love being up here. I love living here, but I don't want to be saddled with a $250 a month expense for the next 30, 40 years, whatever it is. And that's at a minimum. I really believe this thing is going to go over budget, as many public works projects do. Again, we've got to find some source for funding. If that's possible, I don't know. We had a lot of stimulus money available, but nothing was ever done in terms of Long Beach until recently, and I'm glad that they've done that, but it should have been considered long before. Finally, the whole town needs to be surveyed once again, at least the Lakeshore Drive residents. Let's find out where this thing really sits, because there isn't unanimous approval. I understand the Lakeshore owners may want this to happen, and I agree that they need some sort of remediation. But the fact is, in addition to the sewer hookup, I have a neighbor who was given a quote of $30,000 in addition to the sewer system to hook up to it, just because of the difficulty of doing it. And his is one of many that are even worse there. And that doesn't include re-landscaping everything that's in front of the house. We're responsible for that too. Now, I'm fortunate in that my house was built recently and my sewer line comes out the front, so I'll be able to hook up reasonably cheap. But that's not the case for many of these homeowners. So when we talk about $249 a month, we're talking about the sewer cost. We're not talking about money that they're going to have to finance at current going rates, which isn't the rate we're getting from, or that the town is getting, which is great. But if you have to start financing another $50,000 or $60,000 over the course of 30 years, and you're paying 5%, certainly at today's rates, it's not going to be easy for people to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Abigail Neary?
Yes, hello. Can the council hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. Abigail Neary, 2019 Lakeshore Drive. As a certified sustainability professional, I encourage you to listen to what Mr. Stevenson started out on in the public comments on the EPA testing and the actual facts about water quality and the lack of evidence that sewers or septics are polluting Lake Michigan. I have three other key facts. Two, to build on what Mr. Deputy said, please note that House Bill 1245 was passed because the legislator did not think that it should be unfair for residents to pay for capital infrastructure costs because it could be debilitating costs for those with working systems. I think you've heard mentions of multiple, incidences of costs, but note, Long Beach Town Council did pay a lobbyist with Long Beach tax dollars to lobby for an exclusion for one street in one county in one town of Indiana. So I'd like you to consider that when you consider whether or not SURF or House Bill 1245 was appropriately applied in this situation. Point number three is that I think that we should be, when we look at the costs and we look at the infrastructure dollars, this was posted in the Northwest Indiana Times last week that the Lake County Commissioners and Crown Point received an agreement to extend the sanitary sewer service to 359 homes. The preliminary plan calls for the county to spend $25 million on that project, which is to be funded by the American Rescue Plan Act. So we've cited here that there's 302 homes at $13 million with no cap. And in Crown Point, it appears to be $25 million for a similar project, but they've been able to fund this all through the American Rescue Plan Act. So I encourage the council to consider the fairness of this, not only in relation to House Bill 1245, but also into consideration of our neighbors in Crown Point. The last point I'll make is that, of course, we are all want to continue to swim in Lake Michigan. We can look at the facts and we can see that the EPA data doesn't show that there's a problem. But I will say that if we really believe that this is truly a drinking water problem and a swimming water problem, then this should be funded by the American Rescue Plan because it does benefit all. And it should not be funded by a select number of homeowners for a perceived problem of 12 of 302 homes, of which 11 of those, as of July 1st, 2022, will have the ability to repair their septic tanks. Thank you.
Yes, Barrett Callahan.
Yes, I'm on. Can you hear me?
Yes, just state your name and address before you speak.
Barrett Callahan, I'm at 2234 Lakeshore Drive. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to the council today. I am in favor of this project moving forward. And when you look back, and I think the councilwoman that spoke at the forefront of this meeting really hit on some key points, which was that this process began in 2018. And I want to stress the process end of this piece, which where there were multiple forums, there were surveys, there were meetings, there were agreements, and all of that has gone through approval. I also would add that we went through an election phase where if you didn't support your local council person who was voting on this project, you had an opportunity to let your voice be known at that particular time by putting somebody in that would change the vote in this case. And so opportunities to voice your opinion, vote the way that you wanted to vote from a town council perspective to change the outcomes have all been in front of the residents. There are just over 300 residents that live on both sides of Lakeshore Drive. And I happened to be in the last meeting at the Water Reclamation District or the Sanitary District and spoke to that group. It's a very, very small percentage of homeowners that are speaking up against this project. And while I respect some of the data that has been shared with respect to the water and bacteria and that sort of thing, the fact is that any of the homes that have septics along Lakeshore Drive do contribute to potentially poor drinking water, E. coli, those types of things. It just happens. Septic tanks do fail. And that will happen over time. So this is for the good of the long term of the community. And it's going to be good for the town of Long Beach. And I just want to say I respect the process. We have an agreement. The whole decision here is how do we get this funded? That has taken place. And we're in good faith agreement with the town, or excuse me, the city of Michigan City to move forward this agreement. I respectfully ask you for your vote to move this forward once and for all and respect the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Elaine Lecoq or Lecoq. Looks French, but I'm sure I'm messing it up. Lecoque. Elaine, Alain. See anyone? Drew? All right, Tim Arendt. Did I say that correctly? Okay. My name is butchered every day, so.
It's Arndt.
Arndt.
Orchards.
Mhm.
Same name, but different family.
All right.
So my name's Tim Arndt, 1703 Lakeshore Drive, and I appreciate the council giving me an opportunity to express my objection to this project. I don't live on the lakeside, I live on the hillside. And I don't have a $700,000 seawall that's failed or anything like that. I'm a retired electrician living on Social Security. I'm doing my best to, in a pension, doing my best to keep the medium income level down on Lakeshore Drive. Just like everybody said, this project has been going on for a long period of time. There's a comprehensive plan Long Beach had many years ago where everybody expressed an interest in sewers. Back in 2018, when we had this survey that went out to most of the people in Long Beach, we had different opinions on, yeah, sure, let's do sewers. We're talking about the whole town though at that point, not just the Lakeshore Drive people, the whole town. Let's do this. Let's have a bond issue or whatever, however money is raised for projects, infrastructure projects like that. When we had the Sunder and Haas engineering firm get involved, they did a comprehensive study, which I think the sanitary district has a copy of. I looked at their website and that beautiful comprehensive study is on their website. It's got CAD drawings of Lakeshore Drive. It's got CAD drawings of Long Beach, if you've seen those nice pictures. It's got CAD drawings of a sewer system going down Lakeshore Drive, as well as the rest of Long Beach. There's a
a sewer system that's there. I'm not sure if it's all connected together. It probably isn't, but there was some engineering and studies done that considered the entire town, okay? That engineering firm we're talking about at one point was like 400 grand or something. Somebody mentioned a number like that recently or whatever. Who's going to pay for that engineering? Well, it's these 260 homeowners that live on Lakeshore Drive, both the lakeside and the hillside. My point here is that sewer systems are needed. Sewer systems are desired by just about everybody in Lakeshore Drive. The opposition here is to the financing. Whether this was a user fee or a tax or however else money is raised for infrastructure projects like this, whether it's tied to the environmental concerns that other people can speak to more clearly than me, it just seems so unfair. And this comprehensive study that was done by Haas and Sender or whatever, their numbers in today's time frame are inaccurate. I mean, the number I looked at back in 2018 was $127 a month for the next 35 years, got to drop off a little bit after 20 years. So I'm not going to be here then, but my kids and my grandkids will be, hopefully, because we enjoy the lakefront so much. Now it's gone up to, I've been in construction my whole life. Okay, I'm retired, but I was a subcontractor bidding jobs much bigger than this. When you bid a job, you sharpen your pencil so you get the bid. Here we only had one bid that came across. That's reason enough to take another look at this somehow. Anyway, you sharpen the pencil, you get the numbers down, because the anticipation is when you get the job, every little roadblock that comes up is going to be an extra cost, and somebody's got to decide who's going to okay that cost. Now, I asked this question at the Long Beach Community Forum just a couple of weeks ago, or less than that, and they said that this is not our project anymore. If you have concerns about stuff like that, okay, you better talk to the Michigan City Sanitary District and the council. So, just winding things up here, it's like smoke and mirrors that the council have been feeding you in terms of they've applied for grants and everything. This is all in the last time frame that this project has been going on. There's been so much opposition saying, hey, why don't you hire a grant writer? Why don't you do this? They've hired one now, but this is the end stage of this. It should have been the first thing that was done. Okay. Lastly, why do a community, I mean, everybody basically benefits from the clean lake, like environmental people have said. And if this fee is based on users of what? Users of the lake. Everybody in Long Beach uses the lake and they benefit from the clean lake. My lot is 300 feet deep. My septic is further back than many of the perpendicular streets coming down to Lakeshore Drive. My septic is so far back, if it fails, I get so much land there that I can repair it, dig it up, do whatever.
Thank you, Mr. Ernst.
I just am vehemently opposed to the project in the sense that the financing is so messed up and we were not heard all through this project.
Thank you. Mr. Michael Gorman. Michael Gorman. I'm gonna lovingly nudge if we get past 3 minutes, okay? Trying to.
Thank you, Madam President and Council. I'm going to go back to the first words you used when you opened this meeting. You said,
Name and address.
oh, sorry, Michael Gorman, 2313 Lakeshore Drive. I'm on the hillside. You opened the meeting, you said you received a lot of comments by email in the mail against the process, against the cost. I'm opposed to both of those things. The process, I'm not going to belabor this. You've been commenting about a 2016 comprehensive plan. You like sewers? Sure. You want more police protection? Sure. You like ice cream on Sundays? Sure. Okay, no cost involved. That's a no-brainer. That's the comprehensive plan they're talking about. The survey in 2018, you've heard enough about that already. That's at a low ball cost. Okay, and I did not have to hook up to the sewer at that point in time. Now, I will support, I've said from the beginning, I will support a sewer system for this community. I'm in favor of the environment, just like everybody else. But the cost of this project to my family is prohibitive. It's unconscionable. It's just unjust. For me to have to pay $250 a month, not a year, $250 a month, plus a sewer fee, what's that going to be, $50? And now we're talking $300 a month, okay, for 35 years. Plus I have to hook up. I've got a thumbnail from a contractor. He didn't give me a good price, but he said 15 to 30 to hook up. So I got to come up with somewhere 15 to 30 because now I'm told I have to hook up. Okay, that's about 100. Now we're talking $130,000. Okay, now I understand people have other problems with pump and haul, but this is unconscionable. I live in the town of Long Beach. I bought my home here. I like the beach. I like the water. I could have bought my home anywhere. I like the community of Long Beach. So I live in the town of Long Beach. But now I guess I live in the town of Lakeshore Drive. The town has singled me out, okay, and the homeowners along Lakeshore Drive, and they said, you got to fix this problem. What's the problem? The problem is on the north side of Lakeshore Drive. It needs to be fixed. Don't get me wrong. I'm in favor of helping those folks out, and that's the community, that's the town government's responsibility to serve all its residents. But you're not serving me by putting this kind of a financial burden on me because of a problem that is not mine. Okay, now the environment, if you want to support the environment, we all do, it's not the homes on Lakeshore Drive, it's every septic system that cause the water goes towards the lake. So if you have a problem with septic systems, it's not with Lakeshore Drive. So what's driving this project? There's no federal mandate to sewer the town. There's no state mandate to sewer the town. There's no county mandate to sewer the town. So why are we doing this? We're doing this because there is a group of homeowners which have a problem. And that problem needs to be solved. But it shouldn't be solved on the backs of the select group of residents. If this is a public infrastructure project, the residents of the town of Long Beach need to pay for it. They need to be behind it, not a select group of residents. So what do? You have to help these folks. What do? Are there alternatives? Well, you sewer the whole town. From the beginning, this town council has said, if it was up to us, we'd sewer the whole town. But we're not. We're just going to do this. They've acknowledged the town should be sewered, but they're not going to do it. They're just going to put this kind of a cost on all of us. So then where did this start with to begin with? This started with the moratorium by the LaPorte County Department of Health in 2018. An overbroad and overreaching moratorium from one end of Lakeshore Drive to the other. This was in response to a limited problem. It needs to be solved. Get the LaPorte County Department of Health and negotiate with them to allow these septic systems to be repaired. Those seawalls that we've heard about have been fixed. So it's not a seawall problem. It's a septic problem that can be addressed, and it shouldn't be addressed on the backs of a select group of homeowners. So I ask you to not move forward with this resolution to approve the financing. The Sanitary District Board at their meeting last week voted down the resolution to move forward with this. They are holding another meeting, I understand, later this week to reconsider the matter. But I ask you not to support this project for Lakeshore Drive. Thank you.
Mr. Mark Kahowski, Kehoski. You see anybody? If you are on Zoom, raise your hand if your name is Mark Kahowski. No? All right, we'll move on. Robert Rule. Robert's rules, Robert Rule.
I want to thank the council for allowing me to address you this evening. My name is Robert Rule. I live at 2901 Lakeshore Drive in Long Beach. And a whole lot of fear mongering has gone on here tonight about all the potential problems with septic systems. Septic systems have been in use in Long Beach for how many? 50, 60, 70 years? 100 years. And sure, there's been problems for failed systems and they've been repaired. And I think that I'm one of those who are in favor of the sewer system. And I think if it was presented in the correct way in the first time, when it was laid out to the residents of Long Beach, it was going to be the entire town of Long Beach. The cost was going to be somewhere between $30 and $40 a month, along with whatever the hookup charges were going to be to your homes. They did a survey. And according to Dr. LeMay, the majority of people went along with the sewer system. I've heard recently that that may not have been the case, but that's neither here nor there. The problem is, from the time that they presented the cost structure, it has gone up over 4.5 times to the resident select group of just Lakeshore Drive residents. And suddenly, the rest of Long Beach is not part of the project. It was presented as all the town of Long Beach would be involved in the process. That was arbitrarily changed. There was very little transparency on how this thing developed. The residents were not allowed a chance. They say they had a chance for feedback. That is not true. Most of the time you go to the meetings and they wouldn't recognize a lot of people. They didn't want negative feedback. They wanted this project to go through hell or high water. As I said, I'm in favor of the project, as I think most everybody would be, but it's got to be cost spread out over all the beneficiaries. And the entire town of Long Beach will be direct beneficiaries of this. They all use the beach, they all swim in the water, and that project should not go forward unless it incorporates the entire community. It's not equitable. And to go ahead with the project because we're being blindsided by this thing. A lot of people are out of the area for the winter. They come back and find out this thing's been approved. And they understood when they took the surveys early on, $30 or $40 cost, and now they're looking at well over $200. It's not right. It's a blindsided snow job by the town council, and it's wrong. And I ask this council to do the right thing and deny moving this project along and recommend to the town leash they go back, let the residents know what the current costs are, and do another survey. I thank you.
Thank you. James Conniff. James Conniff. 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 All right. Greg Meyer. Greg Meyer. Greg Meyer. Steve Skurick. SCZUREK. All right, move along. And Annie Malone.
Good evening. Thank you to the Michigan City Town Council for hearing us, because as you've heard, it hasn't always been easy. You all have received my letter, but I'll go ahead and read most of my points so that it is in the record. I'm writing to voice my opposition to the Long Beach Sewer Project in its current form. I've been involved in this project for years, going way back to early 2004, Mr. Wall said. But I never thought it would come to this horrible, divisive, and fiscally irresponsible plan. This plan must be scrapped and we need to start over with a new plan, which includes our original goal of sewering the whole town. I've voiced my concerns at every meeting, but I was met with resistance from the town council each time. At an early meeting held in Long Beach, a town representative said, "The train has left the station. We're not even talking about it." And I was shut down. At another meeting, and this is all recorded, I was publicly berated for asking a detailed question. Specifically, I wanted to know when Lakeshore Drive residents voted to incorporate into the Michigan City Sanitary District. I knew nothing. It was only through my own research that I found that I'm now part of Michigan City. We were never notified. And that to me is just atrocious. And the audacity of the Long Beach Town Council. They made that decision without my consent and supposedly on my behalf. That goes for the financing of this whole deal also. We knew nothing. So in general, residents are not encouraged to ask questions because the deal is done. That was said once too. And now the town's response is, it's not our project, it's yours, Michigan City. So now we're asking you, please take a good look at this project. It's a nightmare, it's a mess. Of course, the major concerns are the exorbitant costs. Originally, I don't even need to get into that, how it's all gone up, to include not only the monthly assessments, the usage, the hookup, and again, all the changes along the way. Never invested in that process, just told, Annie, you're gonna pay this. And I'm a widow. This is a big whoop-de-doo for me. In summary, I am increasingly frustrated by the Long Beach Town Council and the Michigan City Sanitary District decision regarding sewers in Long Beach. Their decision to isolate Lakeshore Drive has created a terrible rift in our town, not only between the town, but across the street, for crying out loud. The Long Beach Town Council have lied to us and to you all, reporting false support of this plan. In addition, the Long Beach Town Council has failed in their fiduciary responsibilities when they agreed to this whatever it was in Indianapolis. They were not out for my greater good or the greater good of the people of Long Beach, the people on Lakeshore Drive, whether it be 302 or 286. One more. Okay, at the Long Beach Town Council on May 16th, we heard from families begging for another plan because they are very afraid they're getting priced out. I am too. So I am begging, and it is imperative that the Michigan City Council, Michigan City Sanitary District, Long Beach Town Council scrap this plan and look for a better one. Thank you.
Thank you. So that was the last that I have on my list that made the cut. Before we open up for questions, I know that Mr. Rompala has his hand up, but I wanted to open up for the council for questions. Let me make a couple of comments before we do that, because there were a couple of things that were said about ARPA and some funding. And yes, the state did have ARPA funds that were available through the READY grant that some areas used for sewer and water and some other things, but that took for leadership in the counties to speak on your behalf, I believe, for that to happen, because there were cities and towns that were available to apply, and actually the smaller towns were able to apply this last time. So if proposals were submitted for that, and I don't know how well the information was given out to everybody, but people did receive funding for through the READY grant through the governor's office, which was ARPA money, and that train has left the station and it's been awarded. So I know that is the case. I know also that many have reached out to the Congressman Mervan's office for funding and have received it. So I don't know where that stands, but just know that those options take a while. And it looks like if it's 2004, it just seems like there would have been more, but I'm a little hesitant to say this, but the council should have been included long before 2 weeks ago. Michigan City Common Council. It feels like we've been blindsided too by this process. At least some of the council members have shared that. If Lakeshore Drive was incorporated a couple of years ago, it seems like we should have had a series of workshops to at least make sure that we understood this and not us calling the workshop. Because I didn't know anything of this until it was presented on our agenda. And for us to make a decision on something this big and astronomical as far as the cost on residents that don't vote for us is a lot to ask for. I will say, I wonder how many of the residents on Lakeshore Drive actually are voters for the town of Long Beach. Again, we have a lot of people that have second homes here. So there's a lot at stake to come up with this within a month, within 2 weeks for the council. So with that being said, I know I'll let the sponsor speak, but I'm gonna open this up for council members who have questions. And Randy, I didn't know if you had a few comments before we went to the questions.
I do not. The things I might have said, I think Jim Meyer had covered, so I'll
Okay.
respond to questions.
Okay, so I'm gonna open it up to the council for any questions that they may have. Oh, and does anybody else from the sanitary, Mayor, did you have anything you need to add? Okay, questions from the council. Any questions from the council? Councilman Paul? Councilman Mack? Go right
Yes.
ahead.
And my questions, I would hope any of you lawyers or people involved in the sanitary district, just send me an email with the answers. I don't want to take this any longer, but the decision is, I don't want to make this decision just based on counting heads. That's what your town council is for. And however that was handled, we just found out about this a week ago. But the relationship, as President Deitch just said, between the manner in which we are able to absorb and get credible information on things like the water quality. I mean, we really didn't get any of that until just now having this discussion. So I'm going to just throw out a few questions, and mmac32 or at Gmail, or just send it to my city email. Can the sanitary district, is it possible for them to lock us into this situation in the future consistently? As far as, we're kind of a rubber stamp for contract negotiations that have been going forward. And if that's the case, I know LaPorte is in conversations with outlying areas, and they're attaching their water and sewer to annexation language. And not that I'm wanting to do that or anything in this situation, but we've just annexed areas to the east of us. And there's probably, I think we've already did some connectivity across the bridge to a gas station that's coming up, and it wasn't involving us whatsoever. So would that be possible in LaPorte, for LaPorte Sanitation District to, no, LaPorte. LaPorte has the thing that the mayor is in contention with, these new developments coming, and he wants them to be incorporated before they actually do that. And would that be possible there? And is it just simply that language that would allow us the opportunity to have discussions as to how it benefits Michigan City taxpayers? Another question I would just like answered through email. The surveys of the water quality. I'm hearing the possibilities of the water contamination, and just logically, I'm thinking a lot of these homes have been there for decades and decades. I went to parties when I was in high school at some of them, and I know some of those some of those systems have probably failed, and it just seems like that kind of leakage would have very much contaminated over the decades and built up. But I would like to see the some kind of data on the lake water and the other communities, how much contributions they're putting to the pollution and where we stand in relation to that. And basically those two, the annexation piece and the actual water quality numbers. Thank you.
Councilman Paul Privilinski.
Thank you. I want to thank all the people everybody that's had something to say, pro or con. And I was at the sanitary board's meeting or their hearing last week. And I do really appreciate the amount of information that has been brought forward by the residents and very logical discussion about what has transpired. Some things said tonight have really brought the radar up on me. And one is that this special legislation, and that's what it's called special legislation on House Bill, what is it, 1425 or 1220, what, okay. Did the town of Long Beach, through a vote at one of their meetings, pay a lobbyist to lobby for this? Can that be substantiated to me? Okay, I would like to see that by our next meeting. So I think this is a big thing that people need to take into consideration about what's happened here on this special legislation, you know, behind the scenes. The other thing that I think that we need to look at is the health department's mandate on these people and what are they doing at this time on helping these people, all right? Helping the whole process. Mr. Rule, did I say that correct? Robert Rule is, I believe he brought out some very good points about the exact statement about being blindsided about this whole process to the town residents, but to us also. I think that President Deitch's statement is far-reaching on this whole process because it has not been very transparent at all. Not for you and not for us. And if this goes back to 2004, that there's, you know, I think that I've heard a consensus tonight in that, and if other people were listening, they would hear the same thing, that the people want the town to be a whole project at one time. And that is how you spread the cost out when you do your financing. And I think some of these points are just so right in front of you. It's like somebody's got blinders on. Really, somebody's got blinders on. And I really don't know. I think it's in a way unconscionable to be doing things and not at my level, but at a administrative level to do these things and not let even tell or have a open meeting with the town, with the city council. That's just for me. But you have to understand that we don't appoint the sanitary board. we don't appoint the water board. But I will say this. I will make inquiries about getting some special legislation so the city council gets a voice on those boards. Because we have representation on the police and fire merit boards. We have a representative there that we select. So I think that there's going to be some long-term effects on this whole thing. And I really appreciate all the information that you brought forward. I really do. And it doesn't matter. From my aspect, I know what it means to have a sewer and everybody's doing it together. Because we have people in the city of Michigan City that are on what they call shared laterals, which were legal at one point in time. And that I'm a victim of somebody shutting off a shared lateral. But I think that I speak with the perspective of all the major sewer projects that were done in the second ward with riverboat money back in the early 2000s and in the 90s. So there's ways to do things. And that's how you do it when you do a public works project. That's why they call it public work projects. So I just want to say, I'm not looking for any applause, but I feel your compassion because it also helps everyone with the value of their homes. The long-term real estate value in that community and people wanting to come here. Because I know that if you don't have sewers, if anybody's that's buying a home that knows that you got a septic system, they're gonna, that's part of the process. You got to get it inspected. So anyway, I will be looking forward to the vote we have, and I hope the sanitary district doesn't take a vote till after we have our council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Paul Privilinski. Councilman Simmons or Tillman, do you have any comments before we move on back to the sponsors?
I just have one question. And it was mentioned that there was only 7 bids and only 1 response. When those bids were issued out, were they provided to the public?
Very private. They were advertised.
They were advertised.
The usual method by which you advertise. Request.
They were advertised in the newspaper, like the normal bidding process. I can repeat that. You don't have to get up for that.
Okay. And then my other thing is, I do concur with what President.
Councilman Tillman, can you speak more into the
What
mic?
President Deitch indicated and Councilman Paul Privilinski as far as seeking out any additional fundings. And from what I'm hearing, it sounds as though no other resources have been sought into at this point.
They
correct?
have.
They have.
They did. Someone did indicate from the town council that they are seeking additional funds.
But with that being said, though, the fundings regarding the ARPA, did you look into those as well? Too much paperwork.
No, that's just a comment. Don't repeat that. They said no, but and just feel free to follow up with the city council. You all have our emails undoubtedly because we've been getting the emails.
And yes, and for those the emails that I received directly, I have read each and every last one of those, and hearing everyone's voices today that spoke, and it seems like the majority just from my observation in the room, is for either all of the city of the town of Long Beach, get the sewer lines. If not, it needs to be equitable across for all of the residents.
Thank you, Councilman Tillman. Councilman Jean, did you have anything?
No,
Okay.
not at this time.
All right, thank you. I do have one question before I go back to the sponsors and let them in. So there were a couple of comments, and I just want to be very specific. It says that, Lakeshore Drive was incorporated into the sanitary district. And then there was a comment about hookup requirements. Can someone provide clarification on that? Is it mandatory within a short period of time, 15 years or not? Because I thought the hookup based on our last council meeting is that they had the option to do that.
First of all, this is a town project. It's not a city project. It's not a sanitary district project.
I think we understand that, but we still
I'm
have to
just
vote.
saying that in order for you to understand that it's the town that makes the decision, had made the decision earlier
Okay.
to not mandate connection, but they were going to mandate that each and every property owner along the north and south side of Lakeshore Drive had to pay the capital charge.
Okay.
Okay, then 1245 came up. Now, I don't know who said it, but anybody who says that the town hired a lobbyist to lobby for 1245, just doesn't know the facts. They hired somebody to lobby vigorously against it. What they were able to accomplish was to get a carve out for this project only in the state of Indiana to not be governed by some of the principles otherwise stated in House Enroll Act 1245. So as mentioned by I think Mr. LeMay or Mr. Wall, those provisions regarding hooking up or not hooking up take effect July 1 of 2023, not 2022. Okay, that doesn't have a big deal, but
So they have until 2023 to hook up?
well, it's up to the town
Okay.
at this point.
Okay.
If they want to change the current wording of the agreement with the town, Michigan City is, and this is important because you have to be able to verify the revenue stream that's going to be necessary to make bond payments. Otherwise, the bank, or in this case, the state, won't loan you the money. So that was the agreement at that time. Whether the town changes its position or how it changes its position as a result of House Enroll Act 1245 is yet to be determined. I don't know if they're ready to say at this point or not. There are certain funding options that are being explored that would require 100% hookup to obtain funding.
So in plain language, because I don't want to get it convoluted, is there a deadline for, in their language as the town, for people to hook up? Is there a deadline? Can someone from the town answer that? Oh, so it's not determined yet. Yeah, so you will have to come to the mic, but I just want to confirm because it was stated, and my only question is, so to get funding, because we're voting on the bond issue. To get funding, you have to project out revenue that's coming in.
Yes.
And in that projection, what percentage of those residents are hooking up to that system?
The capital charge has nothing to do with hooking up.
Okay.
The capital charge is assessed against any property, house or unimproved, that has the ability to hook up.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that's what they talked earlier. Somebody did about stubs, that some of the homeowner or property owners wanted a stub so they don't have to tear up Lakeshore Drive. to hook
Okay.
up. So that's one thing, and that's the.
So the
300
binding is based on the capital charge.
That's correct, and that's the 302, somebody calculated
Mm-hmm.
properties, most of which are residences, some of which are not.
Yeah, I just
There's
want
a
to
user
make sure it was
fee.
clear on that.
Yeah, the user fee that somebody mentioned of roughly $50 is accurate as well, because we're kind of assuming they're the average household. Some of those houses are probably a lot bigger and may have a higher user fee, but that's separate. That's
Okay. All right, I appreciate,
have a question.
that was my question. All right, I'll open it up to the sponsors. Yes.
You don't like, so let's just say, this grant is awarded. Would that cause a reduction in that fee? And how
Yes.
much?
Well, I don't know how much.
I mean, like.
You'd have, the sender would
What's the
have,
ballpark, whatever,
we'd have to find out the dollar amount
yes.
that you're gonna get, whatever it is. And then sender would have to process that through the fee structure
Correct.
in order to determine, what effect that would have, if any.
Okay.
Is there a timeline
And
on that?
sometimes, I just to touch all the bases, sometimes instead of reducing the fee for, a little bit every year for the next 30 years, they'll just have it, the grant or money used to make the first X number of payments. So the homeowners don't pay anything until the amount of the grant is spent. So depending how big the grant is.
And not to cut you off, because Councilwoman Jigus may have more questions, but do we have a time frame, sender on the grant and the awarding of the grant? Is there a time
I
frame?
don't know what grant you're talking about.
I don't know either. They keep bringing up a grant. I mean,
They said they applied for a STAG grant.
Okay. I
Through
just
Congressman Mervan.
through Mervan. Okay.
They may come up with more
Right.
before the project, but it doesn't matter. Anytime free money comes in, it can be used to pay the
For-
bond.
Yes. All right. Did you have anything else, Councilwoman Jigus, before I?
No, except that I did ride my bike down Lakeshore Drive last Thursday and I witnessed the odor of a couple of those dumping tanks and it's really miserable.
Yeah. Now, I'm hearing everybody saying they need sewer. They want sewer and they want to have the whole town. They said when this was first brought up, that was the discussion. Does anybody know the total cost and when that was going to happen? They said it would spread the cost out, but in my mind and seeing all the swells and the hills and everything that go through Long Beach, there's gonna be a lot of lift stations. There's gonna be a lot of work. Does anybody know the total cost when they did that? Okay, and then those are the total costs. What kind of bond issue? They didn't talk about it then?
That all happened before the sanitary district got involved. But again, this is a town project.
Okay.
And eventually the town decided which way they wanted to go. And that's when they got involved with serious negotiations with the sanitary district to assist them to implement the project they chose.
Okay.
Any other? Go ahead, Councilman Dabney.
So what's going on with the septics up and down Lakeshore Drive as of now? Has anybody out there had an inspection recently on the either side of Lakeshore Drive? Yeah, I'm just trying to. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm asking the question before you answer, because we know of the problems that happened on the lakeside, and then we have people that are on the hillside. So I'm trying to figure out what is happening on. down Lakeshore Drive.
So Chuck Lazard, 2015 Lakeshore Drive. So we bought our home in 2015. So in order to buy that home, the Laporte had their inspections going. Of course, it failed. And so we had to replace and put in a new septic system. I'm on the hillside. Helped the guy we were buying the house out, you know, we kind of negotiated kind of a middle ground because that was a big expense for him to be thrown at him at the last minute. So that's always been my question. 2015, I was compliant, and all of a sudden in 2022, I'm not anymore. You know, that kind of, it's like, that was arbitrarily changed on me. And then we got this letter from Mr. Wall that said, well, you know, we'll see who's laughing when their septic system fails, you know, and they can't repair it. It was like, you know, that game kept changing on me. And I don't like that, you know, and I would say to you guys, boy, watch who you're doing business with. This just doesn't, a lot of this stuff isn't jiving. I'm not a longtime resident. I'm someone who just moved here, you know, last 7 years. Personally, I've never seen the beaches closed. If there's some kind of E. coli problem that we've had, 13 million to fix the beaches never being closed. I don't know. I don't get it.
And another quick question. I think the woman from the health department is still on.
Yes.
Now, the moratorium that was put on by the health department, am I correct? Why? I would like to have her answer that question.
Yeah.
Why was the
So
moratorium put on?
The LaPorte County Board of Health put in place a moratorium because there were septics, there were fields and tanks that were falling into the lake. And we all saw that. The dramatic rise in the lake levels. It was becoming apparent to the health board that something needed to happen at that time until such time another solution could be found. So it was the health board decided at that time to put a moratorium in place for everything on the north side of Lakeshore Drive.
And what has been done since then?
Well, since then, they have not brought that back up. There has been discussion here and there whether that needed to be addressed. They didn't feel that at the time that, I mean, more recently, the water levels have started to go down. Whether or not they're going to, they will readdress it. I can't speak for the board when they will address it. Obviously, in 2023, July 1st, House Bill 1245 or House and Road Act 1245 will no longer allow health departments across the state to be more restrictive than the state code. So that means the moratorium will be lifted, as will the rest of our septic ordinances in 2023, July 1st. That answers all your questions there.
Thank you.
I will talk about the septic inspection program for LaPorte County didn't start until July 1st of 2016. That's when this septic inspections and well inspections went into place for the entirety of the county. So I can't speak to any inspections that were done before that or what type of inspections or who was doing the inspections. But since July 1st of 2016, IOPA certified inspectors have been required to do those inspections. And we do receive over 800. Last year, we received 864 IOPA inspections into our department for septics that were inspected throughout the county.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And any additional, I know, did you have anything else? Nope. Okay. Councilman Don Privilinski.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just to address the environmental viewpoint on this whole project, I, for one, certainly and dearly appreciate the clean environment. I used to be an environmental compliance manager for U.S. Steel for 15 years. So I know the issues of contaminating the land, contaminating the air, and contaminating the water. And certainly I don't want to see any of that. The second thing that I'm getting out of what I'm hearing in the emails that I've gotten are the exorbitant costs, okay, I got it. Exorbitant costs of this project, where it started at $40 a month back in 2018. Now we're up to $250 a month on capital, $50 a month on the sewer. Now we got I think it's what, 15,000 to 30,000 for a sewer hookup? Is that what I heard tonight? Or possibly more. Okay, okay. Okay, thank you. So, you know, and that's the other thing that I'm looking at here is the cost to the homeowners. And if this project was to go forward, or it's just a suggestion, you know, if this doesn't go forward right now, maybe because due to the cost, because it seems like that's what everybody's really not in agreement with, is that I know that they've talked about reaching out to Councilman Mervan's office for some type of financial relief. But one other suggestion that I would make to the town council and the town attorney that are here this evening is that they reach out to the U.S. Senator's office and to see, and if you need a contact number there, I know who to contact for the Northwest Indiana office, because he did some work for us here in the city, that you could possibly get some type of federal aid from the U.S. Senate or from the federal government by the way of the U.S. Senator. So that's another option to do that. And I guess in reading and listening to everybody and the communications that's been going on in Long Beach through the meetings, and, you know, we didn't hear this, we didn't know that, the town council speaks to us like this, you know, the give and take on this whole process. It seems to me like there needs to be a clearer line of communications in order to get a project like this done. It seems to me like there's too much bickering and nothing is getting done. I guess my point is, one is communications. The other one is the survey. And I don't know what the rush is. It sounds like a lot of folks would like to have another survey again. See how the town feels about it. And why can't we do, why can't you do the whole city? I don't know what the cost of it would be, but I mean, how long would that take to investigate that? I mean, you know, 6 months to a year to investigate what you'd have to do here versus and still get the project done one way or the other. This will give you time to investigate other financing avenues instead of just saying, here, Michigan City Council, you act as the Supreme Court and you decide what you're going to do for the city of Long Beach. That's the way I feel right now. Like I'm on the Supreme Court. They came to me to say, hey, you know what? Whether you like it or not, you're going to pay $300 a month for 30 years, which is going to equate to close to $100,000. Take it or leave it. And then I just walk away back over to where I live and I'm not paying a dime for it. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of in my mind, I'm trying to, you know, I know I'm on the city council and I guess by law, I got to do what I'm doing right now. But from a common sense standpoint, I guess can't understand it a little bit, but okay. And a few other things here. Okay. And now that we are incorporated, or Long Beach is incorporated,
Lakeshore Drive.
Lakeshore Drive's incorporated
into the sanitary
into the
district,
sanitary. Okay,
not the
okay.
city.
We know.
I know.
The
Let
city
me
has
just,
no
let me finish,
jurisdiction
let
in
me finish
Long
my,
Beach.
let me finish
You
my
No, there was some
question.
representation about the city having responsibility and jurisdiction in Lakeshore Drive. You have none.
Does the
Here's-
sanitary district have
The
jurisdiction?
sanitary has this.
Do we have
handle the
any, let me
sewer
just finish
system.
my question. Do we have any financial liability, whether it's the city, whether it's the sanitary district? Is there any financial liability to the city right now?
Only if we do not comply with our contractual commitment to the town of Long Beach.
Yeah,
That's the only issue.
okay.
And
And
our
that's what
contract,
Mr. Haas. Is that what Mr. Haas?
no,
Okay,
no, this
right,
is
go
with the
ahead, sir.
town of Long Beach. There's an agreement that in return for them promising that they would pay all the costs to deal with this project, which means literally all, we, the sanitary district, would act in do all good faith to acquire the SRF loan. So if we don't, just like any other contract, if you promise to do something to somebody in return for what they're gonna do, and you don't do it, of course, then they're not going to comply either. And right now, the city, or not the city, the sanitary district is out just shy of 300,000, but close to it. In engineering fees that would be reimbursed from the SRF bond. If there is no SRF bond because we say, forget it, we're not going to help you, then, it's not brain surgery. Common sense would tell you, well, Long Beach is going to say, well, you're not acting in good faith, so we're not going to keep our end of the bargain of reimbursing you for all your costs.
okay, so then the engineering fees, okay, if this isn't approved, I guess we didn't keep our end of the bargain.
Right.
Okay, then the engineering fees that are owed to Mr. Haas will have to come from the city.
No, well, the district's already paid
Oh,
300 over, yeah,
okay.
whatever we've already paid, we would not get, I'm assuming, okay, I haven't. Long Beach could be really, really nice and tell Michigan City, sure, we're gonna give you the money, our sanitary district, we're gonna give you the money anyway, even though you did not act in our opinion, in good faith. I doubt that would happen.
Okay, then one more question.
Sure.
And I thought it was a great question. And I don't know if that was Mr. Rule that brought it up or, but anyway, it dealt with, okay, if this project goes through and it's paid for by the people that live on Lakeshore Drive right now, they're paying their $300 a month. And then the city of Long Beach decides to do a survey and then and sewer up the whole city. The people on Lakeshore Drive, are they going to be charged an extra surcharge to cover the cost of sewering up the whole city? Or are they going to stay with their $300 a month fee? And then whatever the sewer cost is for the remaining part of the city, that's what those residents will have to pay.
That's what would happen if they use, and this is a town decision, not the sanitary
know,
district or
I
the
know, I'm
city.
just-
If the town decides to use the capital charge fees as opposed to taxes, yes, then the current 300 would not be paying for the same reason that the rest of the town's not paying for Lakeshore Drive. The Lakeshore Drive folks would not be paying for the rest of the town.
Okay.
If they decide to go by means of taxes, which I don't think they ever would because of the tax caps and all the things you guys are familiar with tax funding limitations. Then if once it's a tax, it applies to everybody in the town, unless you do a special assessment district, which in theory could be done. They used to call them Barrett bonds, but anyway, it would be a town council decision at that point.
Yes. So,
Okay.
yes. So let me, thank you, Mr.
I'm done.
Meyer. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Murray, because I think we yeah, we have enough information. We've heard this at our city council meeting and now we're hearing it again. And this bad faith thing. Councilman Prebelinski, just one moment. Councilman Prebelinski, did you have something?
Yeah, I wanted to
Be
get,
brief.
I wanted to make a point on, excuse me.
Go ahead. No, that was me saying. Be
Um,
brief.
You know, this House Bill 1245, if you heard the lady correctly from the LaPorte County Health Department, they're unifying the code. That's what they're doing. They put in legislation so that no county, if you heard it correctly, no county can supersede the state code. And that was a problem, that they put in a restringent modification of the state code under that jurisdiction and didn't help anybody. This is the whole point I'm trying to make. They didn't, that's what really frustrates me. They didn't help nobody. They didn't show no leadership on trying to get something done, but they sure brought the hammer down on these people. And now that we're looking at special legislation, special fees, you know, it's a long arm out there, you know, trying to solve a problem instead of coming up. If you follow anything with the environment, you'll know, number one, what really gets me is the flow of the lake, as was brought out earlier by Tom Stevenson, which I already knew, that the water flow in the top current in the southern basin of Lake Michigan flows from the west to the east. We were never be in any jeopardy. And I know that for a fact because of the training I had as a pad diver. All right, that's one of the basic things they teach you. I'm getting about really at my limit with this thing. But also, you know, if we want to talk about, so Long Beach paid a lobbyist to go down there and lobby against the bill 1245. Another point. So, you know, the lake levels are, the lake goes on a cycle. A lot of people don't want to realize that. The lake now is in the cycle of going down. So I'm just saying is that there's a lot of time to act on this thing. And I think that we don't have to, if somebody says, but the bottom line here that really gets me is the agreement that was made that Long Beach has no skin in the game. And then want to put me up against the wall and say, you're going to do this or you're going to lose 300 grand. Well, you know what? I don't like that. I don't like that at all. That's not any transparency in that at all. So we can talk about the environment all day, all night long. But the fact of the matter is this, things, we don't have an emergency situation here, and we can come up with some good planning and let the people of Long Beach handle this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Clark. So we are not going to take any additional comments. We are going to close this meeting. If you have any additional comments that you would like to make, we do have our city council meeting next Tuesday at 6:30. I know this is on the agenda. You can continue. I shouldn't say this, but I am. You can continue to send emails to us in preparation for that. I appreciate everybody's comments on both sides. And again, it sounds like the biggest consensus I hear is that everybody is in agreement that sewers are good. So we understand that. Now, how we move forward is another thing. But again, thank you all for coming out. Thank you to those on Zoom. and see you on Tuesday. Yes. Yes, yes, Mayor.
Dwayne Perry, the mayor of Michigan City. There were some very good comments made here tonight by all parties. And to try to keep things, put things in perspective and give you some hope that you can keep your money in your wallets for a while. This Michigan City doesn't really have a big dog in this fight. There's not a lot of interest in Long Beach. It's between you and your town council. And we get into it because our sanitary district is nothing more than the conduit by which you get a better sanitary sewer system. What I suggest is that you can do one of a couple things. This is going to come up before the sanitary board again. That this body will many times delay processing legislation by saying they table it. They can table it for a week, a meeting a month. Our sanitary district board could make the motion to table this indefinitely. Then they pull it off the table, nothing happens. They pull it off the table when it's appropriate to process it. Again, if they pass it, then this council can make a motion to vote to table it indefinitely. And that gives you time to sit down and fight this thing out with your town council. It's really between you. We're just a conduit to give you a better sewer system. But my concern as the chief executive officer of Michigan City is Michigan City's liability. As Mr. Myers said, if this falls through, Haas and Associates has already been paid their fee. Now we have to recoup that from you. And I don't want to see Michigan City be out $300,000. I don't want to see you have to pay $200, $300, $400 extra for your sanitary sewer system. So I hope that this will be, I'm sure this will be on the Michigan City Sanitary District Board's agenda again. There'll be some talk behind the scenes. Hopefully they will table it. That gives you some breathing room. If they don't, then this council can give you some breathing room by tabling it. That's my suggestion, but you need to go back to the table with your town council. I think that's, and the LaPorte County Health Department. Those are the three entities that have to work it out. You, your town council, and the LaPorte County Health Department. And if you do that, then you can cool this thing down for a while and maybe generate an acceptable solution to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. As we close again, whatever process, I hate that we even brought litigation and good faith and all that. That is not for us. Let the attorneys decide that. That has nothing to do with us. And how that litigation and arguing it and giving everybody the back and forth and basically telling you how you need to get your money. That has nothing to do with the council. So if it goes to litigation, so be it. If the council so chooses to vote this down or move forward or table it. But again, that is between the attorneys of the sanitary district and the city and the town of Long Beach, not for us to give everybody their talking points on how they should pay and get recoup their money. So again, thank you all for coming and appreciate your concerns. All of the people that have sent us emails, they've been very thorough. I will say that. And again, I've read all, I have all 44 of them as of today. So appreciate it. And our next city council meeting is next Tuesday at 6:30 here in the council chambers. Thank you and get home safely.